Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that back injuries in the workplace have declined in recent years. They remain one of the most common workplace injuries. In fact, about 15% of all workplace injuries that cause missed days of work affect the back. Back injuries are most common when workers are lifting, lowering, carrying, pushing, or pulling objects, especially heavy loads. But it's just as easy to hurt your back by lifting even relatively light loads the wrong way or by working in awkward positions. If you take the right precautions, however, you can keep your back healthy and avoid injury. When you've successfully completed this course, you should be able to recognize common types of back injuries and their causes, and identify controls that can help you avoid back injury. Lesson 1. Back injuries and their causes. Manual lifting, even of very light and small items, is the most common cause of back injury. Common hazards when lifting include trying to pick up items that are too heavy or awkwardly shaped, incorrect lifting technique, performing the same movement repeatedly while lifting, and poor environment. For example, environments with extreme temperatures, moisture accumulation, or trip hazards can make lifting more challenging and potentially harmful. Another hazard can be having to lift items while bending or reaching. For example, reaching above your head to take a box off a high shelf rather than getting a ladder. While lifting can be a common cause of back pain, there are other workplace activities that can lead to injury, including pushing or pulling with a lot of resistance and bending and twisting, especially in awkward positions or when done repetitively. You may push or pull heavy carts, attempt to open or close stuck valves, or use your weight to open a heavy door, all of which can put strain on your back and lead to injury. Other examples of tasks that can lead to back injury include shoveling snow, reaching up to pull down a roller door, or performing maintenance on machines in tight or awkward spaces. It is important to consider all potential causes of back injury. If you discover a potential back injury hazard in the workplace, notify your supervisor. Back pain can come in many different forms. Short-term back pain can be caused by something as simple as a cramp or bending the wrong way and might be treated with over-the-counter medicine and rest. Longer-term injuries that cause chronic back pain may require medical treatment. Muscle injuries such as sprains and strains, joint injuries such as dislocations or arthritis, and ligament tears are all potential types of more serious back injuries. The signs and symptoms of back injuries include swelling, redness, difficulty moving a particular body part, numbness, tingling, and of course pain. As soon as you notice an injury, you should begin treatment. An easy way to remember basic first aid for minor strains is RICE. Rest, ice, compress, and elevate the injured area. This lets gravity help reduce the swelling by allowing fluid and blood to drain to the heart. Some minor strains and inflammation can actually be helped by staying active. However, you should seek medical treatment for anything more serious or persistent. If you notice any of the early symptoms of a sprain or strain, report them to your supervisor immediately. Follow your medical provider's advice for when and how you should return to work after a back injury. Lesson 2. Eliminating or reducing the hazard. In an ideal world, employees would never need to perform manual lifts. In certain cases, it is easy to eliminate the need to lift. For example, a water dispenser with replacement bottles requires frequent lifting, but it could be replaced with a plumbed version of the water dispenser. If equipment can't be replaced, employers can also consider ergonomic adjustments that could be made to avoid lifting. As an example, say a worker on a line needs to pull materials from the lower bins of a rolling rack more often than the bins on the upper rack. To improve the ergonomics for that employee, the employer could adjust the line so the materials that are most often needed are at waist height instead of knee height or lower. When moving several items or particularly heavy items across a long distance, use equipment such as a cart, dolly, pallet jack, or other lifting device. This will help you get the load where it needs to go with a minimum amount of strain on your body. For jobs that require repetitive lifting of the same materials, pneumatic lifts, conveyor belts, or other automated equipment are also helpful. If you work in a warehouse, you might use a pneumatic lift table to raise materials to a comfortable level for shelving. Or you might use a conveyor belt to move boxes from one stage of packing to the next without ever having to lift a single box. Some equipment such as forklifts or motorized pallet jacks will require special training, so make sure you have authorization before using lifting equipment. One of the simplest ways to prevent back injury is reducing the weight of a heavy load by splitting it into smaller loads. For example, you wouldn't try to carry a bookshelf across the room with all the books still on it. Instead, you'd want to take off the books first. If you need to move a pallet of items across the work area and you don't have a pallet jack, it would be difficult to move the pallet by hand even with help from coworkers. However, you could create lighter loads and make extra trips, or put the items on a cart and use it to carry them to their destination. Only carry as much as you can in one trip without straining yourself, and use lifting equipment when and where you can. If you don't have a cart or other lifting device available, you might need help from a coworker to lift heavy or awkward loads. Getting help from a coworker can be helpful, but if the two of you are uncoordinated in how you are lifting, the result could be worse than trying to lift it by yourself. Before lifting something with another person or multiple people, you should decide who is the leader in coordinating the lift. While moving, make sure you take your time and communicate with your partner so that you both move at the same time. Communication is also key when putting the load down to prevent placing the load on fingers and toes. If one person is moving backward, the person moving forward should be clear about what direction to move and should warn of any obstacles. Lesson 3. Proper lifting and carrying techniques. Using proper lifting techniques is important for preventing back injuries. First, before lifting, plan out the route. Choose the shortest, most obstacle-free path to get the load to its destination. When you lift, bend your knees, not your waist, keeping your back relatively straight and stress-free. Hold the object you are lifting as close to your body as possible, gradually straightening your legs as you lift. Don't lift with your feet too close together, and don't round your lower back. Don't lift or carry an unbalanced load or a load that's too heavy for you. Adjust the load so you can carry it. Get help from a coworker, use lifting equipment, or split the load into more manageable loads. When moving with your load, shift your feet to turn and navigate around obstacles you can avoid, instead of trying to twist your body. Don't lift heavy objects directly after a long period of sitting or slouching, and don't lift things overhead with your neck and back arched. Lifting objects from a comfortable height will greatly reduce the strain on your lower back, knees, and arms. This is because lifting objects from a height below your knees or above your shoulders causes your body much more strain than if you lift from a height between the knees and shoulders. To help with this, lifting equipment can be used to adjust the height of the object you're going to lift. For example, if you were moving boxes from a pallet to a storage rack, you could lift the pallet to waist height with a forklift, then move the boxes into the storage rack. This would limit the range of motion needed to move the boxes to the storage shelf. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, is anything you wear to protect you from a hazard. Most PPE is not very effective for preventing back injury, but there are a few types of PPE that can help make lifting safer and easier on your body. For example, using gloves with a good gripping surface will help reduce strain on your hands and keep loads from slipping. Wearing knee pads will help protect your knees and lower back if you kneel to pick up loads or work on your knees for extended periods. Finally, wearing closed-toed shoes or boots with a good grip will help you keep your footing and reduce the chance that you could slip and fall while carrying a load. Some workers choose to wear back support belts while lifting, believing that they provide extra support for the spine. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, or NIOSH, did a comprehensive study that suggested that while back support belts might help workers who already have back injuries to recover more quickly, there's no proof that back belts prevent lifting-related injuries. Another study conducted by NIOSH found that there was not a significant difference in reported back pain by workers that wore back belts compared to those who didn't. While wearing a back belt shouldn't hurt you, relying on it to keep your back safe would be a bad idea. This is because wearing it can provide a false sense of confidence, leading people to try lifting things they wouldn't otherwise. Lesson 4. Exercise and stretching. One of the best ways to help keep your back injury-free is to exercise regularly. The back is a hydraulic system, and activity helps fluids flow to the back areas, such as the discs, easing pain and joint stress. It can also stretch shortened muscles and maintain joint mobility. Even if you're suffering from back pain, it's a good idea to stay as active as you can to recover from the injury. But you should always check with your medical provider to determine a safe treatment plan. It's great if you already exercise on a regular basis, but there are some basic stretches anyone can do before or during work to improve your flexibility. You can start with 5 to 10 repetitions of each exercise and add more as you feel comfortable. Click or tap on each stretch for a demonstration. To return to this menu, click the Back button. When you are ready to continue the course, click the Continue Course button on this frame. Now that you've completed this course, you should be able to recognize common types of back injuries and their causes, and identify controls that can help you avoid back injury.